When you or a trumpet student are having trouble with high notes, what do you say? I bet 7 out of 10 band directors will say, use more air. And whereas that's not totally false, it's not entirely true. A middle schooler or a beginner will take that as pushing more wind through the horn, and that just makes it louder. Truthfully, there are a bunch of reasons players have range problems, from the way they shape their mouth, to the lip pucker, to the breath. So let's start by talking about how I began playing as a kid to how I am playing now. In middle school, my mom was my band director, and she was one that would say faster air for high notes and hot air for low notes, which was pretty good. But I just kept blowing really hard. To be fair, she was a clarinet player and didn't practice trumpet, so she couldn't really, know so much about it, just what she was taught in school. But anyways, through high school and college, I continued brute force right through the horn. And when I got to college, I had a lot of front teeth issues. And I would try different mouthpieces and other techniques to change things, but nothing really worked. I couldn't play high, couldn't play soft, and I couldn't play for a long time. So about 2 years ago, I got a lot of work done on my mouth, and I decided to really research what was going into making the best sound for as long as I could and as high as I could. And that brought me to learning how to play without effort. There's a guy on YouTube I really like, and he says that trumpet playing should be as easy as breathing, and I agree with that. As long as you learn what to do, all you have to do is really just breathe gently and let your mouth and fingers do what you program to do, and trumpet playing will happen. So let's start at the beginning. When it comes to setting up the lips to play trumpet, or the embouchure, I approach it with efficiency and the least amount of muscle that I can use. And that'll do two things. Number one, I don't have to do all these sorts of crazy motions to get high and low notes after one after another. So that'll improve range connection. And two, I'm not going to get tired quickly because I'm not working hard. So what are we talking about? Efficiency means not having to use as much energy to produce whatever we want to. If I don't need to use muscles here, then I'm not going to. I'm just going to use whatever I need to, and that's going to be it. A lot of people will do things like, if you ever see someone try and play high, and they don't know how to do it, and that's totally opposite of what you want to do. You need to relax. All of your muscles have to be relaxed, and you only want to use the muscles that you have to. Everything else is going to cause tension in your sound. So I like to think about my lips having two layers. The underneath layer, and that's more out here and extends. It's firm, but it's not stiff. It's a firm support for the upper cushion, which interfaces the mouthpiece and buzzes. So you've got this firm foundation under here, and right here where the mouthpiece interfaces, I let that be soft. We have four corners. The edges where the lips meet, right here, 1, 2, and the edges where the lips meet the mouthpiece. Mm, 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 mm. That cushion has the ability to contract and expand. When our lips do that, the hole in the middle, or the aperture, changes shape. We want a tiny hole for high notes and a bigger one for low notes. And in this sense, you would think that if you flatten your lips out, they buzz faster. However, if you shove the muscle together, the hole gets smaller. So check it out. Tiny hole. It's kind of a flat oval. And I'm not really puckering. I'm shoving this in. That gets a smaller hole there. So I'm really putting more of the corner of the lip in the mouthpiece, this part. If I use a big fat cushion, if I try and think of it as a big meaty cushion against the rim, that'll take care of all the air leaks. It'll give you a nice big fat sound. One thing that I did to help me with my teeth issues was get a wedge mouthpiece. And it's not something that a lot of people use, but I think it's becoming more popular. Are the front of our mouths flat? Not really, they're curved. It's subtle, but they're still curved. But trumpet mouthpieces, the rims are flat. My wedge mouthpiece You can kind of see it there. It has, it's almost like a little groove. And what that allows me to do is it gives a little bit more space so that I can shove my lips in there a little bit more, and that gets this tiny hole. If we've got muscle tissue that kind of gets caught on the rim of a flat mouthpiece, that kind of hurts your range connection. That can kind of hurt you. Some people can, if they set up one way, they can play low. If they set up another way, they can play high, but they have trouble connecting the range. That's what the wedge mouthpiece helps with. It doesn't work for everybody. It works if you're playing the way that I'm trying to show you how to play. And I wouldn't tell someone that this is the answer to more efficient playing. It helps me out. That might be because of my certain mouth thing. 99.9% of trumpet players play on a straight, rim mouthpiece. And that's just typical because that's what's around. The wedge mouthpiece isn't something that's totally popular. It hasn't been around too long. And I don't expect it to become the popular thing, but it totally makes a world of difference for me. How do we set it up? How do we set up the embouchure? The classic way is to say M and hold that position where the lips meet. M. Let's see here. M. 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 I've seen it where I say, okay, say M, M, and they roll it all the way in. You don't do that. It's very slight. M. I'm really more or less making the thick cushion with the upper part of the lips. I'm not kissing. I'm not in and out. I'm not flipping my lips. I'm pushing them forward telescopically. Lots of meat. When we say M, that sets up our lips for pretty good interface with the mouthpiece. Do you know which lip causes the sound? It's the top. If I free buzz and touch my lower lip, the sound continues, but if I touch the top lip, the sound completely stops. So if you have to pull the horn on your face, pull down against the lower lip. And honestly, too much pressure against the lips is awful for trumpet playing. That's how Louis Armstrong severed his lip muscles and got a disorder named after him. And that's more energy than you need. You don't need to do that. The more gentle you are with interfacing the horn, the better. Instead of pulling the horn onto your lips, push your lips onto the mouthpiece. As far as placement, we generally want it somewhere in the middle, because when we blow out straight. So somewhere around here. This is not as important as this. Vertical placement is paramount. We want to cover the top part of the upper lip and the bottom part of the lower lip. This ensures that we're putting the most muscle into playing. If we play in the middle of the lip, we call that playing in the red. You want to get them both in there. If someone has really big lips, really full lips, you can roll them in, but you want to get them both in there, and you can do it. Playing in the red uses really weak muscle tissue on the inside of your lip. You're not going to be able to play long, and the range is going to be disconnected. As long as the lips are in the mouthpiece, that's all you need. With kids, the immediate thing they do, you've set up, and then you say, take a breath in. They lose the embouchure, and they'll roll in or they'll roll out again. So I'll have them set up and then breathe in through their nose when they're getting their embouchure figured out. Another small thing about embouchure, mustache will kill the high notes, so I shave just above my upper lip so that I don't have that problem. Once we have placement and a firm support, we're holding it between these four corners, we can blow. Let's talk about air because I think this is where we get all mixed up on things. Why do we take a big breath in? Well, first off, when we fill up a water bottle, does it fill up from the top down? No. It fills up down to up. So naturally our abdomen should expand with our chest, if not slightly, before. This allows us to get the most air in. If you breathe down here, it allows us to use our accessory muscles. It's just like throwing a baseball. If you just put your arm up and throw it, that ball's not going to go very far. But if you twist your arm backwards and turn your body and put all these muscles into it, you can throw it really hard. If I just put my arm here, that does not activate all the other muscles. But if I twist, now the muscles are able to go. So you can't use all these accessory muscles unless you get all that activated. If you hold your side and your back like this, and you breathe in, and your lungs go down pretty much almost to your belly button, so it goes down pretty far. You want to feel all of that expand. Those are your muscles that are going to help you support your breath. This down here is like a air compressor, high pressure. To see if you can demonstrate high pressure, you can seal your lips on the side of your hand, make pressure, and release it to get a pop. If you aren't doing it very good, you don't get a very good pop. So that's how you can ensure you're getting high pressure. So all this talk about breathing, it makes it seem like you have to have a lot of air to play trumpet, and that's kind of true. But most young trumpet players take that to mean I have to blow as hard as I can right now for every note. They have great power, young trumpet players, but they don't have any control. The idea with all the air is to be able to play for a long time at once, long passages, and to support loud playing as well. Control comes from the mouth. You have to have this pressure all the time, too. The same pressure that I have available for a low C is the same pressure that I have for a high C. It's just how I use the air in my mouth that is different. So check it out when I play. Does it seem like I'm blowing my brains out or trying extra super hard? No. And I'm only blowing this hard. It is pretty gentle. My tongue and my mouth position is what makes the note change. In the end, it's not the air that makes the sound, it's the buzzing of the lip. If we can increase the air speed, we can make the speed of the lip buzz faster and increase the range. But it's important to realize the difference between pressure and speed. Pressure comes from your air compressor down here. Speed comes from the mouth. The mouth shapes the air to increase or decrease the speed of the buzz, and thus the range of the notes. Range does not come from the trumpet itself either. The trumpet's just an amplifier for your lips buzzing. And in order to get these notes in tune, we changed the length of the horn by holding these valves down. Simply pressing the buttons will change notes, but you're only in a little small range, like usually within a partial, depending on what your mouth shape is. And speaking of mouth shape, a lot of people endorse the O, U, A, E shapes when playing brass, and that's good. O is for low, U is medium low, A is medium, E is medium high, E is high range. But that is incomplete. Those 5 shapes only account for 5 specific notes on the horn. And this is the key to not only getting range, but tone on the trumpet. You have to, this is the secret to playing trumpet and sounding amazing. You have to shape every note in your mouth to fit the center of pitch for the highest quality of sound. Think of a pipe organ. You don't have just one pipe and that makes all these different sounds. You have hundreds of pipes, and all of them are bigger or smaller. They're all connected to the same air bellows, but because each one are bigger or smaller, you get a different size or a different sound. So we have to make our pipe change size. So each note on the trumpet will have a different space shape inside the mouth, but the mouth is always open, especially the upper palate, the roof of the mouth. Ah, oh. Kids love it when you do that, so do it. Oh, it's a vocal thing. My throat is open. One of my old trumpet teachers he would say, I have a telephone pole, and I just shoved it down your throat, and I ripped it back out. Now you have a gaping tube ready for vast amounts of air. You have muscles that you can hold that tube open, and you do that by taking a big breath. So how do we direct that air? Specifically, I focus on my tongue, because that's what we can change a whole lot of, because huge. Everybody's tongue is huge, and it's a lot bigger than you think it is. You can use it to direct and deflect the air. What do I mean by that? If you can whistle notes, you notice that the note goes up when the back of your tongue rises. If this is my airway in the back of my throat, this is my tongue to the front of my mouth. When you don't even have to whistle. If you say ah to e and go from I, the back of your tongue goes up. Oi. When you do that, your jaw will also go up just a little bit. That's contracting the size you have here. Big opening here always. This gets a little smaller. But there's only, so much you can go with your tongue up before you hit the top of your mouth and you don't have any air to come through. Once you've reached the top of your mouth, it then shifts forward, because now you've got this, and if this is your mouth opening, you've got all this space. So we're going to start to close it up, and we're going to start to hiss. So for reference, between treble C and treble D, I consider that kind of like a break on like the clarinet. C, D, I, E. That's when I really flick my tongue up, because it does take a little bit more pressure for those notes above D. So from C to D, all my students, before they even play it usually, I'll tell them, when you're playing the C to D, I, E, for C and D, I, E, C and D, because that'll make that D come out effortlessly. After that, you extend further up, and that takes me to about E or F on top of the staff. After E and F on the staff, I go forward. So I think of this as two cavities now. We have a rear cavity and a front cavity. When the front cavity is bigger, the note's lower. The rear cavity is also large. Mid-range, the rear's a little smaller. The tongue and jaw are a little elevated. High range, everything has shifted, and you can move this forward so that this or back cavity can build even more pressure. So the final position for the tongue is this forward hiss, because you can get here, you can kind of push it forward, and it's a hiss, and the speed of that air is what makes this buzz. Only if it's soft and gentle like a cushion. If it's firm, you're not going to be able to get it to buzz. So now that we've got where each note is generally going to be, we go through each note in long tones to find out where each mouth position has to be to hit the center of every note. And I've said center of pitch a lot, and I've made a video on that also. You can see that on my channel. One thing that got me really thinking about what I can do with my tongue and thinking about my mouth sounds was tube and throat singing. They manipulate the air when they sing a drone note and they use their tongue to make the overtone series. Just by doing vowel sounds. It's really cool sounding when you do it well. I can't do it well, and it's really addicting if you can do it. If you compare my embouchure with others, you'll see differences. I think the big one is it looks like I have a lot of red meat out here. Who cares? It's good support. I don't roll it. I can't play that way. That's too much. And it's not going to look like everybody else's either. It looks like I am puckering or kind of flipping my lips out, but this is me normal when I play. So it's not that much of a difference. It's a slight roll in, and then I'm supporting here, soft cushion here. I do play off a little to the side. That really doesn't matter. It's due to my bone and face structure. As long as the lips are fully in the mouthpiece, I can play. Playing trumpet is a balance. If you add volume, meaning you're just allowing this pressure to come forward even more and you're opening up a little bit more, you have to adjust your lip and your tongue and your jaw placement to keep it in tune. Same thing if you get quiet. When it comes to range and playing high, on top of all this shaping each note, and when you shape each note, it's like singing. Shape every note in your mouth to make the trumpet shape the note. That's how you're going to get good tone and center of pitch. When it comes to range and playing high, the best thing you can do is to play soft. As soft, as soft, as soft as you can. Squeak these things out. You're going to learn how to play high with your tongue and not with air. And you know Maynard Ferguson and all these other guys just scream notes out. You want to scream like in DCI. They didn't scream. They didn't just, all right, I'm going to play up my scale. They had to squeak first. They had to get these out. Unless it was just a thing that they just got right off the bat. You've got to squeak them out first. You have to know where these notes are. Do everything when you're practicing trumpet soft. You're going to drown out the noise. You're going to play with less muscles. The muscles here are what important. You don't learn by blasting faces off. You have to squeak before you can squeal. And I've found that very gentle breaths and deliberate mouth shapes make these high notes effortless. They're up there. You just have to find where they're at. Really, I think everybody should be able to hit a high C. If all this is where it's supposed to be, the 2 ledger lines above the treble clef, you should be able to get that. My advice to you is to get in touch with your mouth. Figure out what this is doing. The way I did that was long, 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 long tones. Not long tones, but long, long, long tones. I would go chromatically from middle staff G, and I'd hold it for as long as a breath as I could. And that would be anywhere from 45 to 60 seconds, if not longer, depending on which note it is. Then I would go up and down chromatically, and I would hold each note for a full breath. But when you do that, and even if you close your eyes, you start to notice how everything feels during the steady feed of air. You kind of get in a trance. And honestly, once you start to feel more of this, it's going to become so much easier. I really got the hang of the center of pitch, and it was a breeze. If you really want to find if you're in the center of pitch, you can bend the note up and down. Eventually, you just want to, and when you hit that, that's going to be consistent. Always playing with high pressure, but just not letting it come out. We control it here. It wants to come out, but we don't let it. That's how the range comes. So if you're interested in knowing more about the long tone exercises that I like, or center of pitch stuff, I have them, and I'll try and make a link here so that you can get to them easily.